Today we have a panel called Debunking. I lived overseas and now I'm back. Like, what do I do? Okay? So today we have two guests. And we're gonna talk about the reality versus expectations of coming back here and establishing yourself. My first guest is Valentin. He is the CEO of Andros. If you've ever been to Annam and you bought jam, you bought Andros' jam. My family eat Andros' jam. I didn't even realize I was eating your jam until I looked it up. So they sell a lot of food products in Annam, giant company. It's a French-owned family company. Valentin has been here since, I believe, 2011, correct? 2011, and then Andros came here in 2016. They started buying some factories. And then what year did you become CEO of Andros?
Yeah.
It's 2016, is it?
Exactly.
2016. And he's a father of two kids, Yanis and Adam. And here we have Bao. He is the store director of Decathlon, though he doesn't like being called store director. He likes being called store leader. He went to international school here in Vietnam. And he's like, hey, I'm going to go to college in the US. He has a degree in nutrition and dietetics. He did a little boxing, did a little soccer. Then he came back, worked in a hospital in a year, got that experience, and then he took over the family's business in restaurant and export. And then 6 years ago, he took a position with the Decathlon, being their store director. And is that the store in the Mega Mall? Aeon Mall is their biggest store. So today, we're going to talk about what it's like. Today we're going to talk about what it's like being a third culture kid. And now a third culture kid is what happens when you're born in a different country than your parents, or you spend a lot of time in a different country from your parents. In my case, my parents are born in Vietnam, but I was born in the US, right? For Valentin's situation, he was born in France,
exactly.
And now he's a CEO of a Vietnamese company, right? So with a third culture kid, is we're kind of in between, right? We're in between France and France and Vietnamese culture, or in my case, American and Vietnamese culture. So we have a broader perspective. But with this broader perspective, I think it could come with identity challenges. So, Valentin, for you, what have your personal experiences been as a third culture kid?
So firstly, my experience, and when I come back in Vietnam, I decided to come back in Vietnam, I come back just for 1 year, and I'm still here after 13 years. So the most important is you have different, experience. And what I would say is that when I decide to come here, I just want to come, just for a short period. And finally, now I'm happy. I'm just happy just after 13 years. Because when I come, it was not easy. And I would like to say just that everyone thinks that it was easy when we arrived, when we decided to come in Vietnam. And I think the lady before said that when we come here, because we are Vietnamese, we always imagine it's easy. We always imagine that, you see many people to say, yeah, we arrive in Vietnam, it's easy, we have, you see, we have plenty of bar, we have plenty of, it's exciting. But for me, the experience was very difficult at the beginning. And that's something I want to share, because it's not because you are Vietnamese, you come back in the country of your parents. Because to be honest, it was not my country, I was born in France. So, of course, I speak Vietnamese, I eat Vietnamese, I have family in Vietnam. But it was, yes, difficult, because I start my career, I was born in France, but I have difficulty, because I need to adapt, finally. It was a new country for me.
How did you get a position that relocated you to here in Vietnam?
Sorry?
How did you land a position that relocated you to here in Vietnam? How did you first start working here in Vietnam?
Yeah, when it was not a dream for me to come in Vietnam. It was an opportunity for me to come in Vietnam. And I come just because it was for work. I come for work. I come because it's just an opportunity. I just want to for 1 year, 2 years, and after, now. And when I come, it was yeah, I come for a short period, and after, yeah, now it's become just like my home now. And I remember a story because I know that when I take the plane, each time I take the plane and I come back in France, I say, I come back in France, I say, I come back home. And I remember that one day, when I take the plane, I come back in Vietnam, and I say, yeah, I come back in Vietnam, I come back to my home. So it's, you know, there is a moment that it's, you know, you realize that Vietnam become your home, but it takes time for me to make the, you know, the change in your mind.
Yeah, I came here in, moved here in 2019, no, 2021. My wife is there. I moved here a couple of years ago, and it was a little bit weird. It was a little bit weird, but I gotta say, it just feels really good in Vietnam. Bao, you had an experience in the U.S. So you studied here in international school, and then you went to college in the U.S. Have you ever felt caught between cultures?
Well, yeah, it's a very easy question to answer. So all the time, 100%. And I'm sure everyone who's lived abroad and came back feel it too. Today, tomorrow, you feel it all the time. And the funny part is you feel it more moving back than when you first move abroad. So actually reverse cultural shock, which is way worse. So yeah, the short answer is yes.
Yeah, I gotta ask you a question. Is there anything that really surprised you about the U.S.? Like, you're like, wow, it's weird. Anything weird?
Yeah, wearing shoes in the house.
Oh, wearing shoes in the bed. That one, oh, that one.
Like a lot of Americans, they won't pick up their food from the table when it falls, but they'll step in the house with their shoes on.
No problem.
So it's something I won't understand.
Okay. So next question is for Valentin. You have two kids, Yanis and Adam. All right. So I'm expecting a son, and so I have a lot of questions because what we're doing is a little bit unique. Okay. Because our parents, or at least my parents, they moved to the U.S. and then that was a time, and then now they worked really hard to bring me to America so I could work really hard to come back to Vietnam. So how has, it's a really unique experience. Like, I have this American perspective, but I'm raising a kid in Vietnam. How has that been for you, having that French perspective, but raising a kid here in Vietnam?
To be honest, we take it easy. Because I know I have a lot of friends that they put a lot of pressure on that. But yeah, maybe it's our style, but yeah, we don't make pressure to say, okay, they have to speak Vietnamese, they have to speak English, they have to speak, for sure they speak French because we speak French. Their mother is French, so we won't speak Vietnamese at home, so we speak French at home, they go to French school. We do it very easy, so they speak French, they speak very fluently French, English. So no pressure, to be honest. Vietnam is a good country for kids. So that's why we go with the flow. So if we do a projection, because they are small, they are still young, 6 and 9, to be honest, and as I'm CEO and we recruit a lot of profile like TCK, so to be honest, the profile is it's a very good profile because they are very adaptable, they are very curious, naturally curious, they are very quickly change, open-minded, they are very, to be honest, the profile is very, different, very well. To be honest, the fact that they live in an international environment makes that they are very, adaptable. So you will see your kids will be, to be honest, really good for the change, and it's a good environment to live.
Well, it's going to be a lot better than the American public school system, so I'll tell you that. Okay, this is the next section. Okay, the next section is actually kind of a little bit carried by me. So to give it a little bit more context about myself, is I studied mechanical engineering at Cal State Long Beach. I was a YouTuber for 8 years, a content creator, as the panel we just had. And then I realized, man, I got tired of making videos, man. You gotta hit the camera and you gotta, present yourself. So it gets tiring, and I think everyone has an 8-year or 10-year span with that, and then you gotta do something else. So the next thing I did was I came to Vietnam. Step back. I went to a conference called Global Sources, where I talked to some suppliers from China, and they didn't want to talk to me. They thought I was a nobody. Well, that was a mistake by them. So I came to Vietnam, where I was treated with respect. Suppliers actually talked to me, and now I have Birchbury, which is my shoe brand, which I'll give a free pair of shoes to the other guests here in a second. So I came here, and so now because I don't know Vietnamese, it does limit what I can and cannot do in Vietnam. So for me, I think I'm limited because they do business in Vietnam. Like, they actually do things here. I think I'm limited to making money in the US, but with Vietnamese talent, whether that's through making a product or providing a service, which is a lot easier, by the way. Making money in USD is a lot easier than other currencies in the world, okay? So that limitation's okay, but that's what I work with. And so the question for the panel was, like, how does it affect your ability to do things here in Vietnam is like not knowing Vietnamese? And I would say everything. You cannot do business in Vietnam without knowing the language, I think.
Yes. So actually, that's the question I was gonna give back to you, because how do you navigate not knowing Vietnamese?
My wife. That's how I navigate. I'm useless.
Because I speak pretty good Vietnamese, and sometimes I still have trouble, understanding the team, and because I manage a fully local team, so it took me a while to. Professional context is difficult, but personally, it's fine for me. So.
Do you think that's what made you uniquely positioned to be good at being CEO of Andros? Is you had that French background, but you could communicate it to the Vietnamese people that work for Andros?
Yeah. So as I told you that for me it was not a readaptation. It was adaptation because it was not my country. I was born in France, so I need to adapt. So and when I arrive in Vietnam, people say, imagine that I need to understand them directly, need to speak friendly Vietnamese. It was not the case. Even I speak Vietnamese, and okay, I'm a Vietnamese face, so they expect too much from me. So, and I was directly manager, I was directly director, so they expect too much from me. So I need the time to adapt and to understand the code. But finally, after time, they passionate also. So we can say that Vietnamese are quite passionate and nice with people. The big change for me it was when we started Andros, because
started where? Started at Andros?
2016, yeah. Because before I was at Big C and I was in charge of the export. So I was, to be honest, in Vietnam, like a French living in Vietnam. So you see, I'm taking care about export. So I'm living in Taoding, I'm going to Pizza for P, El Gocho. So to be honest, I'm living like a French in Vietnam. And so when I was CEO of Andros, and I decided to launch for the local market the business, I need to be, to be a Vietnamese.
Oh, it was your choice to launch in Vietnam.
Yeah, and we're launching the brand, and I need to, to understand the Vietnamese market and to launch the brands, the brand for the Gen Z, for the Vietnamese local.
So you're responsible for getting that jam in Annam?
Exactly. So not the jam, so other
product.
So we launched the Andros Professional, and we need to launch product for coffee house, for Highland coffee. So I need to understand the habit. I need to listen Vietnamese music. I need to understand the Vietnamese habits, and so I need to watch Korean drama. I need to watch Nguyen. I need to watch all the Vietnamese reality show. So today, to be honest, I know better than all Vietnamese the music. I can sing in Vietnamese. I can know all the Vietnamese song and Vietnamese series. So that's why now, to be honest, I feel more Vietnamese and I'm more happy. So to be honest, I'm French on paper, but I'm Vietnamese on my heart, and I feel more Vietnamese finally than a Vietnamese. So for the business, I did it,
Yeah.
and finally now I'm feeling more than Vietnamese. So that's a big change for me. So the adaptability and what I did make me more happy, and it was a big change.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you started getting more into your culture for capitalist reasons, like you need it for your job, and then through doing it for your job, you're like, wait a second, I kind of like this. This works for me, and I think it's really important. I mean, straight up as business, it's not about you. It's not about, I'm not sure what was said earlier in these panels, but business is not about you. It's about serving your customers. And so when I think about my customers in the U.S., that is my unique advantage that these Vietnamese suppliers cannot do. They cannot see things from an American perspective. So my unique advantage as a VitQ or Vit coming home, an overseer coming home, is I can understand the Western perspective. I know the Western problems. Let's see a Western problem and then fix it with Vietnamese talent, typically through a product. I think typically through a product is best at scale. So I think when you need to deeply know the person that you're selling to, like deeply know, to a point where I've spent so much time in Vietnam, I actually have to watch some American content again, like you, immersing yourself in the culture, because the culture is also changing year after year, and I think you have to be on top of what is the current culture today as well. So the questions, which actually I think you just gave your best advice, but the next question that we had was a Vietnamese overseers coming back. Right? You come back after 5 years, or you come back after being born in France, you don't know anybody. You have no network. So what are some of the effective strategies for building relationships when you first come back here to Vietnam?
I'll say what works for me. Sports. So the sporting community in Vietnam is just growing by days. So you see marathons all the time. A lot of soccer teams, local and expat teams are growing. So that worked for me because when I came back, I joined two soccer club, an expat club, and a local club, and then I joined a running team. So I got to meet a whole bunch of people from different backgrounds. So I would say community is the big one, like OVS is where you can really connect with people with similar backgrounds. So sports, yeah.
Valentin, what about you?
Agree. I think that we have plenty of community, so sport, business also community, the overseas community also, overseas Vietnamese. So no, you have plenty of community. So you have plenty of occasion to meet people. You need to be social.
Yeah, my wife knows this. I have no friends. This is actually a real question I have. It's actually a real problem. I don't go out. Okay, so the last question before we open it up to the floor is, so we just talked about like what's the advice for building relationships, but for Vietnamese coming overseas, like just what's the one good piece of advice you'd give to them? We'll start with Bao first.
One advice?
I'd just be overall, but what advice would you give young overseers upon their fresh start in Vietnam is the question.
I would say enjoy the ride because it'll be a roller coaster ride. And anyway, it's still a ride, right? So just enjoy it. Professionally speaking, it can be difficult if you manage a local team. So it'll take a lot of resilience to get adapted. But personally, I don't see that and today, in 2024, you have such a big problem. Because, if you live in D1, D2, D7, everyone speaks English. If you go to any restaurant, the menu is in English. So it'll be really easy, actually. So I would say just come back, enjoy the ride, and it'll work out.
Valentin?
You need to know why you come back in Vietnam, for which reason. As I told you, after 13 years I'm here. I wanted to come back for 1 year, and I'm still here. So there is plenty of reason. Find your own reason to come back in Vietnam, firstly. And secondly, don't be arrogant. Don't be arrogant. It's not because you oversee Vietnamese that you are better than native Vietnamese.
I love that. That's my favorite advice.
Because I'm CEO of French company, and we recruit more and more of native Vietnamese, and they are very, very good. And I recruit now more and more Vietnamese native, and they have now more and more going to study in overseas. and they are very good, and they study more and more overseas. And to be honest, they come back, and they are very, very good. So that's why don't be arrogant. And we have also good school in Vietnam. Hermite, MIT, Bac Qua. So that's why. Don't think that you are better than them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as the world becomes more globalized through the internet, through remote work, what country you're from doesn't matter anymore, right? What programmer, I don't care what country you're from. If you're a video maker, if you make good videos, you make me videos that sell on Facebook, I'm gonna hire you. It doesn't matter what country you're from. And I think people that only spend time in the West, they don't have that perspective. But when you come here in Asia, you really understand, like, yo, this is a competitive world out there. So you gotta make it work. You gotta make something happen, or it's not gonna happen for you. So let's open up questions to the panel if we have time. Does someone can help me? Does anyone have oh, I guess I'm the host. Any questions from our panel for our two guests? Okay, perfect.
Thank you. So thank you very much. I think it's very interesting to hear that. So my name is Dan. I'm working normally from London as a tax advisor. My question is, first of all, do you ever feel, or I guess it's a hard question, but do you ever feel like coming back, for you, Valentin, for example, going back to France, ever? I know it's a hard question, and probably you don't even know the answer, but is it possible to go back? Or, yeah, I guess that's a question. And secondly, no, let's leave it at that.
Possible.
Yeah, I remember now. Do you ever feel like, might be a bit of a touchy question.
Ask it.
Do
it.
How hard do you feel it is to navigate the landscape here with the government? And if it has ever been a problem in your adaptation here?
So let's do the questions. First question is, Valentin, would you ever want to move back to France? Would you ever want to move your family back to France? Back to France, yeah.
If it's possible for me to back in France?
Would you want to?
Want?
Would you want to?
If I want to go back?
Yeah, would you want to move back to France?
It's possible in general. Yes. Yeah. Now, to be honest, now, if the question is what I imagine my future in 10 years, maybe the question of the...
Yeah. Want
No, yeah, it's possible because, you know, today I'm working for a French company, so I always keep the link between my culture in France and I'm working, so I go back in France every 2 months, 3 months. So yeah, it's possible, but it's not my willingness now. I have a house in. If you ask me, I have a house in Paris, and I go back every 3 months, 4 months. But it's not what I want today. So in short term, no. If I imagine my future, I would like to have my life between Vietnam and France. 3 months in France, 3 months in Vietnam. What I imagine. And I have also some side business. So I have some own business. I have in the Mood Segongs, if people know, some decoration store, some. So voilà. So if after the maybe I will have my own business. So I already have my own business. So maybe my future will be that. But everything is possible, yeah.
Everything is possible. For me, I don't really have a reason to move back to the U.S. Everything I have is here in Vietnam. And the second question about dealing with the government, I think if everyone understands money. You buy things here in Vietnam in bulk. They don't ask questions. Okay. So I buy my shoes here. I get my shoes here made in Go Vap, and it is a very seamless process. They accept all sorts of money. Any next questions for the panel?
My question comes from a manager, leader who's come to Vietnam from abroad. In what ways have you had to adapt yourself to your workforce? And in what ways have you had to make your workforce adapt to you?
This would be appropriate for Valentin because you manage a big team with Andros. It's a giant team.
To adapt about Vietnam? Adapt to Vietnam, sir?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
In what ways, you as a business leader, have you had to adapt yourself to manage your workforce here? And in what way have you had to adapt them to work better with you?
Bow, you're next. Dude, think about the question.
You want to answer first?
Yeah, I can answer it. So I would say it goes both ways. In every way, I had to adapt to my team because actually you get different people also. It's not just a single recipe. So you get different teams. And what I found was a lot of them work on emotions. So actually they had to like me as the manager. And I had to work well. So that's number one. That's actually one of the hardest to work. I'd have to adapt. Number two was actually I think that's the main one. And then for them to adapt to me, because I'm pretty strict with my schedule. I have a pretty strict lifestyle, so it also depends. It's not like they have to adapt to American culture. It's more like my team adapt to my style in order to work. So it's a pretty broad question, and that's how I would answer it.
What about you, Valentin?
Yeah, you know, the management, you know, it's also, you have common points between if you have Vietnamese or French, it's the capacity of listening. So you can have Vietnamese people, you can have French people, but if you listen people, if you understand people, at the end it's the same, you know, way of management, firstly. Secondly, you have your own style of management. So my style of management is the same maybe of Bao. It's on the sensibility and the emotional. So we are working on it. And one of my pillars is people. So we want to make people improve. So it's something that I had a speech today with my team, sales team, and I just explained them that one of the things that I want is to make people, to give opportunity of people. So I just announced them that one of people will transfer in US. So that we try to give opportunity to them to go to overseas, because we always in the group give opportunity to French people to be expat. And I say to my group, why you always give opportunity to French people to go expat in the group? Why not Vietnamese? I want to have Vietnamese people to go over the world. So this year we will have a Vietnamese guy on my team to go in US. To give an example, so I'm happy because it will be the case. In the room we have also a girl here that we pay the study 2 years, Tran here, that she commit with me to say, okay, you will go in France, you will be good, because you will go in France, and we will pay your study, but you come back, but you need to speak French. And you will work for Andros during a few years. So she's here, she come back this year.
Oh, that's her. She's right there. Do you speak French?
And she speaks French.
Voila.
Alors, for sure,
you better speak French. They sent you over there.
I was very hard with her because I call her every month during 2 years to ask her, did you learn French this month? Did you have good result this year, this month? So she was at Lyon. She had 2 internships during at headquarters in Andros. But we pay for her the study. We help her to have a good internship, and she come back on the supply chain team. Voilà. So this is my type of management. We give opportunity to people. We trust people, but at the end, they commit with us to voilà. So. It's also the style of the Vietnamese. When we trust people, they give us give us back what we expect from them. So
Yeah, so what Valentin pointed out was a really nice and growing trend. It's like usually you see the expats only come from like the US and then they're gonna come to Vietnam. You never see it go the other way, from Vietnam to these other countries. And I think with him starting, I didn't know you were doing this, but I also do this. My team from the Philippines, they come to Vietnam to pick up samples for creative work too. So they're going overseas. And like, I don't care. Like, there's a job that needs to get done. Like, why can't it be done by someone that's from the Philippines or Vietnam? It makes no difference that they're from their passport says whatever, as long as they can go. And I think you're gonna see, it's just globalization. It just makes sense. If it makes sense, it's gonna happen. And I think as young leaders like myself become older, more prominent, we just don't care anymore. We just don't care about where you're from, as long as you can perform. Next question, I think that might be our last question too. I guess over there.
It's more of an interesting question. If you live overseas, is there any products or any services that you have overseas, but it's not available right now in Vietnam, and it's an opportunity for a local entrepreneur like us to pick up and create so that your life's more comfortable or more closely resemble to what you had back in US or France or something like that?
Yeah, I think this question's a trap, because what people have learned is like you can't take a product that is successful in one country and then bring it to another country and it's also be successful. For example, tanning beds, great in America. You're probably never gonna sell any tanning beds in Vietnam, right? And then another thing was live streaming, right? So a lot of Chinese companies poured billions of dollars to get live streaming to be a thing in America. It never became a thing because America don't like live streaming unless it's like for Twitch or something. So not only do you have to check if something is popular in America, can I bring it back to Vietnam? You got to ask yourself, are the Vietnamese going to pay full price for it? Not because chances are, if you're going to bring something from the U.S., what you have to do is you have to export it from Vietnam, out of Vietnam, and then back into Vietnam. So yeah, you know this. So they're going to have to pay full price. So are Vietnamese people willing to pay full price? In most cases, that's where the magic happens. That's where you have to test, do that, like what's called product validation. Try to sell it to some friends, then try to sell it to some other people. But if nobody buys it, you just got to go on to the next idea as fast as possible. But I think that's where you have to spend a little bit of time in a different country like Bao, and then you're going to notice, like, you probably notice some things related to sports, because he does triathlons, he does running, he does soccer. He may have noticed some sports equipments that they don't have in America. Then he can go have these made in Vietnam and then sell it in America. And that's how those niche opportunities are found. But I think it comes from actually a deep level of understanding, because if it only required a surface level of understanding, anyone can do it. So anything that's going to be super good, it requires a very deep level of understanding of both cultures to make it happen. Yeah. I think that's our time, right? We're already running behind schedule. I don't know. Are we good? Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. That wraps it up.
Thank you.
Applause, please.